So I hope it's not going to be disturbing for you.
Oh, so there's no class?
No, there's usually no class, but because you're here, we're having class.
Oh, okay. Whatever you like.
No, but I'm just saying. I
Yeah,
put up
there's no
some
problem.
Dividers.
Yeah, it's not just... Okay. Okay, usually there's no class, but now there's a class. That's good. All right. Is there a microphone or a telephone? Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good. Let me just send a message out. All right, 1 second. Just make sure we are online. Okay. Is there cartels? Oh, there we go.
Is it water?
Water? I usually drink during class. It's against the principles, no drinking. No intoxication, no drinking. Jayo Radha Kunya Viharati Madhava Kunya Viharati Vijana Madhava Girivadura Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravaticharya also Tera Sajashi Shimad His Divine Grace Charanana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Ram Say Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory Ranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvati Vicharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarani Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, just fix this. All right. This. Okay, record. What's that? Okay. All right. So, we are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 8th chapter, text 24, all right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Maitreya Vacha Evam Sanjapitang Matur Akarnyartagamam Vacha Saniyam Yatmanatmanam Nischakrama Pitu Purat Maitreya Vacha Evam Sanjapitang Matur Akarnyartagamam Vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nischakrama pitupurat Maitreya vacha Evam sanjapitam matur Akarnyartagamam vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nischakrama pitupurat Maitreya vacha Evam sanjapitam matur Akanyartagamam vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nischakrama pitupurat
Maitreya vacha Evam sanjapitam matur Akanyartagamam vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nitra kama pitupurat
Maitreya vacha Evam sanjapitam matur Akarnyartagamam vacha Niyamya atmanam Nishchakram pitupurat
Maitreya vacha Evam sanjalpitam matur Akaryanarta agamam vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nishchakrama pitupurat
Ladies?
Maitreya vacha. Evam san- This is not working, so that's not coming out. Next. You want me to try it?
Yeah, try it. That's all right.
Evam sanjapitam matur. Akarnyartagamam vacha. Saniyam yatmanatmanam. Nishchakrama pitupurat.
Evam sanjapitam matur Akarnyartagamam vacha Saniyam yatmanatmanam Nischakrama pitupurat
Okay. Maitreya vacha. The great sage Maitreya said. Evam. Thus. Sangjalpitam. Spoken together. Matu. From the mother. Akarnya. Hearing. Arta agamam. Purposeful. Vacha. Words. Saniyam ya. Controlling. Atmana. By the mind. Atmanam. Own self. Niskrama. Niskrama. Got out. Pitu. Of the father. Purat. From the house. Translation: The great sage Maitreya continued the instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. So we'll just go into the purport. Purport: by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Both the mother and the son were lamenting Dhruva Maharaj as having been insulted by his stepmother and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out the means to mitigate one's lamentation. Thus both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, because that is the only solution to all material problems. It is indicated in this connection that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. To the Gaudiya Vaishnava, this forest is the forest of Vrindavan, or Vrindavana. If one takes shelter of Vrindavana under Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are solved very easily. Amazing purport. So again, the verse. Maitreya Vachaivam Sangjapitam Mathura Karnyarta Gamam Vacha Saniyam Yatmanatmanam Nishchakrama Pitu Purat. So Om Gana Timirandasya Gananjana Shulakaya Chakshurudmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So, Dhruva Maharaj is undergoing very heavy austerity here for a little kid. And it's interesting, the names of his two mothers. One is the stepmother, and of course one is the actual mother. And that one who was actually his mother is his guru. That is his Siksha guru, not as his Diksha guru. We could spend a whole class talking about that, but that's another subject matter. So, the names of these two ladies is quite indicative of Dhruva Maharaj's mission. So, his stepmother's name was Suruchi. So, Ruchi, of course, for those of you who are performing devotional service, whoops, I don't want my computer. There you go. All right, I think it's still going on. All right, anyway, can't detect my camera. That's right. So, for those of you performing devotional service, ruchi means to have a taste. Yeah, it's one of the platforms of devotional service. You get a ruchi when you're nishta in devotional service. You know, dosradata, sadhusangota, bhajana kriya. And then an arta nivritti, and then ruchi, right? Everybody knows that? No. That means it's a step in the progressive path of devotional service to have a ruchi, or a taste. So suruchi means a good taste. So in this particular instance, referring to Dhruva Maharaj's stepmother, it means one who has a good material taste. You understand? Like material attraction. And Dhruva Maharaj's actual mother is Suniti, which means good instruction. So we are actually confronted with this conflict right now, all of us, between that which we have a taste for in this material world, which is basically the senses, manashastani indriyani, the senses in the mind. We have a taste for these things. And then also, on the other hand, there is good instructions. So those instructions are coming from, as far as the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are concerned, They're coming from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So it's a constant conflict within ourselves, isn't it? We know the right thing, but then we have a taste for something else. We have suruchi and suniti. And so, oh my God, what am I going to do? I want to go to sleep, I want to eat, I want to fight with the devotees. You got this vacho vegam, manasa krota vegam, jiva vegam, udara pasta vegam. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that's the nectar of instruction. Pushings. And also, they're pulling us too. And at the same time, Krishna is pulling us with good instructions. Actually, the word Krishna means someone who pulls us. All attractive. Just like the word Krishna is composed of two syllables, Krishna. Krishna means to attract. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, you have the description of a Vaishya, Krishna Gorakshavanidam, Vaishya Karma, Swabhavajam. That a Vaishya is, what is he attracting? A tractor. Because his tractor is not a machine, but his tractor is a bull. You understand? He's plowing the fields. So he's attracting or pulling. So that's a Krishi. Krishi Gorakshavanidam, Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. So Krishna is attracting us, and he's giving us good instructions. Right now, we don't have too much attraction for Krishna. We're mainly attracted to the other thing. And so, comfortable life, our tongue, our belly, our genitals, mind, anger, words, all these things are just like, we want to do them. We want to have fun in the material world. Of course, that fun is temporary and ultimately leads to problems. So, therefore, one has to be determined to accept those good instructions given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mouth of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada and the other acharyas in our disciplic succession. And so that requires something like Dhruva Maharaj has, which is called a sankalpa. For those of you who don't know what a sankalpa is, it means a perfect determination. There's like all of us, we're supposed to be engaged in what? The Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan? Nobody knows what that is. Okay. All right. ABC. So, Kirtan means you're chanting. And Sankirtan means not only with everybody else, which is true, or, going out and having public kirtan, but it means complete, absorbed chanting. Everybody understands that? Mm-hmm. So, samskara, it also can mean work, perfect work. But in this particular context, this comes from the root of kriti, or where karma comes from, like karma means work. So, it means perfect determination. So, Dhruva Maharaj, in order to do something, to give up the ruchi, or the comfortable life of living in his father's home, which is being described here. He gave up his father's home. It requires determination. And it requires a purpose. So we are often wondering why we are bahul shaktas to anantas cha. It's also Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. Isn't it? What is it? Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam tayaya pritachetasam. Vyavasayatmika buddhya asamado navadhyate. So those who are attached to bhoga, isn't it? Aishvarya, opulence, prasaktanam, very attached to those things. Tayaya pritachetasam, their minds can't become fixed on Krishna, and they don't get that firm determination, vyavasayatmika buddhya, and they don't become absorbed in Krishna, samadho na vidhyate. So, because we are not fixed in our sankalpa, everybody understands that? Our determination, our purpose. Okay, let's use another word. Purpose. What is your purpose? And therefore, we become rather splayed out in our performance of devotional service. Dhruva, and actually the name Dhruva, all these names mean something. It means it's fixed. You understand? It means fixed. It's so interesting in these stories in the Vedic literatures. Each and every name means something in terms of the story, in terms of the message we're trying to imbibe. So Dhruva means fixed. And of course, Suniti, Suruchi, they all have their own meanings. So Dhruva is fixed upon his goal. Therefore, he's Vyavasayatmik Adputir. Ekeha Kuranandana. That means he's one-pointed. And that is really what one has to be in order to become Krishna conscious. Also another verse from the Upadeshamrita with Utsahan Nistya Dharya. Same thing. Enthusiasm comes from understanding one's goal. What is one trying to accomplish? So this applies throughout our lives, especially when we're engaged in the sadhana process. You know, oftentimes I get the question, well, most often I get the question, how do I control my mind when I'm chanting japa? That's the most common question I get. Like, as soon as I start to chant, people ask me, my mind goes here, my mind goes there. Do you have any special tricks, Maharaj? Any, herbs I can take? Any exercises I can do? Breathe in one nostril, breathe out the other nostril. Push on some pressure points in your hand. I don't know, stand on your head. I had one of my godbrothers used to chant his japa hanging upside down. Maybe it works to get more blood in the brain. Probably does. So oftentimes we get this question, and so my answer is that before you begin to chant, you should have a sankalpa. Again, that word, sankalpa. You should ask yourself, why am I chanting today? Or why should I be focused when I'm chanting? What's the reason? Like Dhruva Maharaj here, he has a reason. And his reason, of course, is, he wants the kingdom better than his father, better than Lord Brahma. It's a pretty big reason, pretty big material reason. Now, I cannot advocate that you all have a reason like that. However, the Bhagavatam does teach us, akama sarva kama moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogeni yajeta purusham param, which means basically, even if you have some material reason, whether you are free of desire, whether you are full of desire, or even if you desire liberation, moksha kama, udaradi, then you should fix that particular purpose to help you focus on the holy name. You should fix it. I'm not advocating that one should have some material purpose. Don't get me wrong. But just practically, people do have material purposes. Krishna recognizes this in the Gita. Satur vidha, vajanti mam. What does he say? He says, people come to me for material purposes. Right? They come because they want wealth. Om Jaya Jagadisha Hari. Any of you who've been to Satyanarayan Katha here, please, I'm sure our friend Yogendra has been to so many Satyanarayan Kathas, tried to raise money for the temple. So, of course, he doesn't do it. I mean, he's not into materialistic things. So anyway, so they want money, or they're in distress. I mean, I have to be frank that 2 or 3 years ago when I had kidney stones, I was praying to Krishna to take the pain away. That was the best job I've ever had my whole life. You don't know what it's like to have kidney stones. It's like for a lady giving birth, but the baby never comes. for 2 or 3 weeks. So, so Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Wow, really focused. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I have to be honest. At that point, I really wasn't praying for pure devotional service. So, the point I learned from that was, of course, I learned many lessons. One lesson is material world's a place of suffering. Because right before I had the kidney stones, I was trying to enjoy my body by eating nice food and thinking, this is so nice. And I found out the very same things I was eating were causing the kidney stones. Oh. My favorite foods. If you're interested in what they were, I'll tell you later. But it was my favorite food. So basically, Krishna was smashing me. All right, you think you're going to enjoy? Okay, see what? And then also Krishna was teaching me, just see how a pure devotee you are. You're simply praying for relief from pain. And I was thinking, I'm so advanced and enjoying life. And then Krishna saying, no, you're not. You're just a mundane sense of joy. And you're just interested in liberation. So anyway, getting back to the point. So I had that sankalpa there, and it was focused. So in the same way, it should be Krishna conscious, obviously. We should, every day before we chant, every day when we wake up in the morning, or even before we wake up, or when we go to sleep, that's even better. Actually, I was studying how really successful people in this world work, and before they go to sleep, they actually focus on their goal. So when they wake up the next day, they're actually focused too. So like you see with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was Vyavasayatmaka Buddhir, completely focused. What was he focused on? This is interesting. He was focused on fulfilling the order of his guru. And this was because he had read the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of that particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmaka Buddhirege Hakur Nandana. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur stated, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur stated, that if one is fixed on the order of the spiritual master, then that's the Vyavasayat, that's pure devotional service. And so Prabhupada was 100% fixed on the order of his guru. And in fact, that's the objective means by which we can understand Srila Prabhupada was the greatest devotee of the Lord. Because who was more fixed on the order of his guru amongst Prabhupada's godbrothers than Prabhupada? None of them. So that was Prabhupada's sankalpa. And you actually hear this in Prabhupada's poetry and Prabhupada's words. Prabhupada has one poem. He says, I have no hope of direct service for the coming sojourns of birth, but he simply prays to serve his guru life after life. So it's really wonderful to see Prabhupada's motivation. Of course, I cannot understand the mind and intelligence of a pure devotee, but to hear about Prabhupada's motivation and determination and fixity and one purpose like that, and that's what we can learn from one of the many things we can learn from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Just to be fixed on that particular goal. And best to be fixed upon the order of our spiritual master, especially His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who was everybody's Siksha Guru in the Krishna consciousness movement. So because Dhruva Maharaj was fixed on his goal, he was able to go to the forest, and later on we're going to read in this particular chapter that he was tested by Narada Muni as to his determination. Later on you'll read that Narada Muni tells him, go back home, little boy. You're just a Kshatriya, you're just a little kid. And in the future, when you get old, then you're going to be able to engage in devotional service. That's, of course, a similar argument that Prahlad Maharaj's friends gave to him when Prahlad Maharaj was attempting to make them Krishna conscious. They said, right now we're kids, And Prahlad Maharaj said, Komara Machuret Pragyo Dharmam Bhagavatang Miha. That you should take up Krishna consciousness from the beginning. Dharmam Bhagavatang Miha Durlavam Manasa Janna Tara Dhruvam Arthanam. Anyway, so this is our situation. Somehow or other, fix your determination, then you'll have good japa. And then you're going to serve Prabhupada's mission. You're going to be a valuable person in Prabhupada's mission. And then whatever Maya presents to you, like even Haridas Thakur was presented directly with Maya, Durga. But his determination was there. Determination. Just like that verse that I began to quote in the beginning. Vacho vegam, manasakroto vegam, jiva vegam, udurapashta vegam. It's described that someone who is performing devotional service may have these pushings, but the person is able to tolerate the pushings because of his determination. It's not that a pure devotee of the Lord doesn't have any, a pure devotee, of course, like Prabhupada doesn't have any pushings, but it's not that everybody who's a pure devotee has no physical body that doesn't push him or her in a particular way, but because of the intelligence, which is actually mentioned here in the verse, fixed in their determination, they're able to overcome that pushing and continue serving Krishna in spite of all the difficulties. So, anyway, so these are some of the points that are there in the verse. So any questions or comments? We'll keep it short. Yes?
Maharaj, I was appreciating your point that the Srimad Bhagavatam actually authorizes the possibility of having a sankalpa, which is materially motivated with that akama, sarvakama bhava verse. So a doubt arose in my mind that, well, what about the other instruction that we hear in the 10 offenses that can be made while chanting?
Yeah.
Number 9 is to harbor material attachments. So how would we balance those two? Yeah,
that's an interesting question. Actually, to maintain material attachment in spite of hearing so many instructions on the matter. So my understanding is that one should be having material attachments, how I usually explain it to people. Having material attachments is not offensive, but maintaining them and not trying to get rid of them, that's the offense. That, it's just like, if having material, just having them was offensive, all of us would be extremely offended. Not you all, me. Just looking at myself. Then, what would be the hope of any of us advancing in devotional service? As we know, there's different stages in the chanting of Hare Krishna. There's the offensive stage, and then there's the clearing stage, and then the pure stage. And of course, there's many other intermediate stages between those stages. But we should be attempting, feeling, as described here in this verse, remorseful, remorseful that we have these things and doing something about it. And pray to the Lord, Ananda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishme Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Padapankaja Stita Duli Sadrasam Vachintaya. I have these attachments. I feel very bad about them. Please help me get rid of them. Help me overcome them. And using our intelligence, we act on a higher platform than our attachments, than the attachments that are there in the heart. In other words, even though we have these attachments, we can act as if we don't have the attachments. That's the intelligence platform. That's the Buddhi Yoga platform. You got the mind, and the intelligence, and the ego. So, Prabhupada said, the intelligence is this close to Krishna, the Supersoul. So we fix our intelligence on the Shastric injunctions, and even though our heart is filled with all these dirty things, we act on the platform of intelligence. And that way, we're not committing that offense because we're actually acting on a higher level And the dirty things in our heart are going to become purified or clarified or gotten rid of by the process of bhakti. So anyway, that's how I generally explain it. That
So should we then perhaps make a caveat that it's okay to approach the Lord with, I want a kingdom bigger than my grandfather's. I want pain of my kidney stones taken away, but I know this isn't pure devotional.
Yes.
Or like, I'm doing this, I'm asking this from you, but I really want to be purified of even this motivation.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I approached it. I felt extremely embarrassed in front of Krishna that I was asking him to, but I mean, it's so much pain. I mean, some of you have experienced a lot of pain here too throughout your lives, and whether you had an automobile accident. It's, when you're young, when I first joined the Krishna conscious movement, I didn't understand, how people could be in pain. Because, I had a rather protected life, never had an accident. The worst thing that happened was that, I had the measles. That was about, that was probably the worst thing that happened in my life. Really protected, pampered life. So if I saw someone in pain, I would probably just try to preach them out of it, which is completely the least compassionate way to deal with someone. So after experiencing these things, and then one becomes rather humble, more a little humble, hopefully, or angry. Angry with God or humble, one has a choice. So one becomes humble and says, Krishna, I have this desire, and I'm putting it before you. I don't want to have this desire, but I have this desire. And then Krishna will fulfill the desire in such a way that it doesn't impede one's devotional service. So, and one has to be practical. That's why we have the Varnashram system. Someone says, I remember being a brahmachari, and some of the brahmacharis say, I have a desire to be married. We try to preach them out of it. There's that story, I won't mention names, how I embraced the desire tree to get someone out of getting married. I won't mention the names. Don't worry. It's just like, Hare Krishna. We have to be compassionate with ourselves and compassionate with others too. And introspective enough to admit, and then, feel regretful that we do have these desires, but understand that Krishna is not going to condemn us for them. If we get overcome by guilt, that, I have this desire for a new computer. Because those are my desires. So anyway, then it's going to be really counterproductive for our devotional service. So just admit it to Krishna and go before Krishna. Oh, Krishna, my heart is filled with all these dirty things. And like I said, I'm not advising you to go pray to Krishna for a kingdom but, it's, what can I say, We should find some way, ultimately, yes, we should find some way to pray to Krishna for something, to have some sankalpa that is consistent with our advancing in devotional service. Yes, that's really what should be done, the best thing, but people are not always on that platform. I mean, for example, in my particular role in Krishna consciousness or service in Krishna consciousness, I find myself oftentimes praying, my sankalpa is praying for someone's benefit, spiritual benefit. It's quite common that we are informed that this devotee or that devotee has left the society of devotees. And, like with disciples, it's not at all uncommon. I remember Prabhupada, the first time someone left the Krishna conscious movement, Prabhupada was crying. So therefore, so I find myself quite often, probably my most common prayer or sankalpa is, Krishna, please bring this person back to Krishna consciousness movement. So I sort of dovetail, and that's pleasing to Krishna. That's pleasing to Krishna. Instead of praying, Krishna, please give me what I want to eat, or something like that. So, Anyway, it's interesting. Yes, Bhushai.
The last part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that
Yeah.
the forest is Raj for us.
Yes.
And like years ago, in the early days of the movement, of course, if you had to go to India, if you're going to make advancement, you got to
Yeah.
go to Vrindavan, you got to do this, you got to do that. And when it comes to death or disease, you have to go. You got to get that ticket ready, you know.
Yeah.
But because we've grown and we've matured, would you say that we understand Vrindavan is based on Vrindavan consciousness?
Yes.
And Vrindavan can't, and not to sound mundane, but Vrindavan can be anywhere. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, because you are wherever your consciousness is at.
Yeah.
Like Prabhupada said, we travel at the speed of the mind. Like right now, if I close my eyes and I think of Hawaii, you may think I'm in class, but I'm in Hawaii. Much nicer weather. So anyway, Krishna, please make it warm outside. No, don't you know I'm here, Krishna? You have to make it warm. Anyway, so so the whole point is, and Prabhupada said his temples are as good as Vaikuntha. You know, these are like embassies. Just like if you go to an embassy. Let's say if you go to Washington, D.C., and there's the embassy of India. The laws of India apply within that particular embassy. Like if you're a criminal in the United States, you can take shelter in some embassy, and the United States government can't touch you within the embassy. There was that one person who was trying to avoid the United States, and he went to some embassy in Europe, and I forget.
The Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Yeah, Ecuadorian embassy in London. So if we go into the embassy, then with our mind, not just our body. You know, this is the embassy here, this temple, or the new temple you're building. If the devotees are chanting, any place where chanting is going on, that's a tirtha. The word tirtha means a place, connecting place, or a bridge. And a pure devotee is a tirtha. Prabhupada is a tirtha. If you were with Prabhupada, one of the first things I experienced, the first time I met Prabhupada in 1971, was that I was transported back to the spiritual world just by being with Prabhupada. You know, I forgot I was here in the material world. And that was, of course, later on I remembered. That's another issue. But it was just like Prabhupada is a tirtha, a crossing place. You know, so you know, the temples should be like that. If the devotees are chanting and hearing about Krishna, there, it's not the building itself doesn't make it a tirtha. It's the Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. That's what makes it a tirtha. And so, just like my godbrother, Bhakta Tirtha Maharaj, there's a tirtha. Bhakta Tirtha Maharaj, he could have left his body in Vrindavan easily. I mean, he had all the facility. It wasn't a question of money. It wasn't a question of people to help him. But he chose to leave his body in Gita Nagari. And that's a tirtha. And he was absorbed in Krishna's names and absorbed in service to Prabhupada. I mean, oftentimes I have an issue with the devotees who want to go to Vrindavan at the ripe old age of 30 to wait until they die. Isn't it? You know, just like, I mean, that's how people criticize Prabhupada. Some of the Brajabasis criticize Prabhupada for leaving Vrindavan. They say, you should just stay here so you can go back to God. Isn't it? Don't leave Vrindavan at an advanced age. But Prabhupada left Vrindavan at that age, and Prabhupada said he was never outside of Vrindavan. Prabhupada is a Brajabasi, and there's no question of being outside of Vrindavan. And Prabhupada ultimately did leave this world from Vrindavan. But Prabhupada, he went to London when basically his body was just skin and bone, literally skins and bones, not figuratively skins and bones, because he wanted to fight for Krishna. And so that's Vrindavan. I mean, to serve a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada until one leaves the body, then one's in Vrindavan. There's no question about it. No matter where one leaves the body, if one is absorbed in service to Prabhupada. So that's okay. Question. We have more questions. Yeah, back there.
If you have a desire, like say for a computer, for a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma, you want to be the Lord of a kingdom
Yeah.
greater than his. That desire could be purified, correct, by dovetailing that
Yes.
desire in the service, loving service of the Lord, then that everything becomes purified.
That's right. Yeah, that's Yukta Vairagya. So you use your computer for Krishna, not just to surf the internet. And you use the kingdom to make everybody Krishna conscious in the kingdom. Yeah. Yeah, you dovetail it. It's not that you just simply use it for yourself. But, frankly, people have desires. And we should be introspective enough to admit it. Oftentimes, we think that we have actually transcended our basic needs. There's one psychologist, Maslow, who talked about, I remember the exact terminology, it's called spiritual transcendence.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, well, not just the hierarchy of needs. This is another work. He talked about spiritual transcendence, where one thinks he is transcended because of spirituality. He thinks he or she has transcended their basic needs. We're not even talking about desires, we're talking about needs. And then ultimately those needs or desires come back with more force. Maslow was very intuitive as far as a lot of psychology of human beings. So my experience is it's better to be honest with Krishna. Not to ask for material things, not going there. But to be honest with Krishna is, Krishna, I have all these desires. Krishna, I want to be free from the pain of this. I was honest. I'm not going to say, Krishna, I only want pure devotional service. That would be a dishonest statement while I was experiencing the pain. I would say, Krishna, I thought, Krishna, ultimately I do want devotional service, but sure as hell I want to get rid of this pain first. So that's honesty. I think it's really important that in spiritual life, oftentimes people are not introspective enough or honest enough with what's happening in their own hearts. So, yes.
Just because you are talking about Bhakti Tirtha and about understanding someone else's empathy.
Yeah.
For pain. I had a private meeting with Bhakti Tirtha, I can't remember the year, it was like 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Outside of Washington, D.C., they had a little house there.
Yeah.
Him and his followers. So, and I wanted to talk to him about something specific, but I didn't realize that he was now recovering from some disease, which later became the thing that took him away.
The cancer.
And he was thinking that he was on the mend at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, he said, I'm very grateful for it happening because I've always had sort of an attitude of cavalier, maybe. I mean, this is humility. I never saw him in that way, but he was thinking in his mind, maybe I was a little insensitive to people that I looked at them as weak. Why can't you just go? Because we all have situations where you have a sprain or something or whatever. It is emotional problems, and you just work through it. But then there's times when you get hit so hard.
Right.
Especially as you fade away and your resources aren't as sharp.
That's true.
So he was telling me that he said, I appreciate this now because I can understand it more empathy for others. That was his move.
And that's a good point. That's what I experienced with that kidney pain too.
I can see that.
That it really helped me. Because I never understood what pain was before. Extreme pain. And Krishna gave me a taste of it now. And someone says I'm experiencing pain, I don't just preach to them, this is Maya Prabhu. You're not the body. The brahmacharis used to do this. You remember that, Bhujaya. you're not the body, you know, just, all right, I'll tell you one story. I was in New Vrindavan in the early days, before anyone here was born. So, and I had high fever. It was when Prabhupada was supposed to come there for the Bhagavad Dharma discourses. Some of you may remember those days.
I was there.
You were there. So this was in preparation. It was a month before. I was sent there to help prepare for Prabhupada coming. Also, I was going to cook for Prabhupada and everything like that. So I had high fever. So I'm lying there in bed, you know, shivering or sweaty with a high fever. And the person in charge, I'm not going to mention his name, but you can guess who it was.
Oh,
Yeah, came up to me and he said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I have a fever, I'm faint." And he said, "Get up! The best way to overcome a fever is get up!" And it was traumatic. I'm traumatized to this day by it. Whenever I think of this person, who's no longer with us, I think of that. And then I was just like, basically, had to stand up, and he made me go outside and to chop firewood. And, I was basically, I couldn't stand, when you have a fever sometimes, it's just like, and so that sort of thing can drive people away from the Krishna conscious movement. And I'm sure many devotees have left because of not being treated compassionately or understanding. So it behooves all of us to develop some empathy for those who are suffering in different ways. What would say, but for the grace of God, there go I. So, anyway, yes?
May I ask, what instructions of Prabhupada do you feel like would help us be fixed in our determination, like good ones to focus on?
Which ones resonate with you?
Mm.
So we have instructions that resonate. I mean, like everybody has a different service. I mean, the instruction that resonates is basically try to bring as many people to Krishna consciousness as possible and take care of the devotees. Don't let anyone leave the Krishna consciousness movement. Be ready. And I was going to speak about this at midday today, but I'm just going to mention one thing. Be ready to shed gallons of blood. It's interesting, that expression, which I'm going to talk about at midday. Just a little coming attraction. So Prabhupada used that expression in the Vedabase over 50 some odd times. And that expression also was used by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quite commonly. But I'm not saying that that's everybody's instruction. Some people, let me be focused on taking care of the deities nicely so that people will be attracted. So everybody has their own particular mood in devotional service. There's different instructions that Prabhupada gave different devotees as their goal in life. And also, be kind to the Vaishnavas. I mean, just like, okay, I'm not going to get into it right now because it's something I wanted to speak about later. So, yes.
So the temples that Srila Prabhupada physically visit and there is so many pastimes are considered tirthas. So New Talavan is a tirtha.
Yes.
Because Srila Prabhupada was here, and actually the next year we will be celebrating 50 years that Srila Prabhupada visited New Talavan. And in that sense that we should even consider dropping blood, buckets of blood to bring somebody to Krishna consciousness. It's so nice, but then in the same way, if we want to keep something so valuable that we have, like the temples and the deities, shouldn't be that also we have to be a little more cautious to whom or for whom we try to put all that sacrifice as worded sacrifice for certain people, or should we try to be more careful who really is worth all the sacrifice, and sometimes on the whole community, not only certain individuals, the authorities, certain departments, but some people are just that have their nature, and they have to cause havoc for the whole community, and then we justify with compassion and buckets of blood. Is that really worth it in society?
It's an interesting question. I mean, first of all, two things. It's the temples that were opened by Prabhupada are certainly tirthas as long as the devotees continue to serve Prabhupada's mission there. A tirtha, just like an embassy, can become closed. That's one thing we should understand. It maintains its purpose by the devotees there serving Srila Prabhupada. Secondly, it is not that the temples opened up after Srila Prabhupada left this world are not tirthas. They are just as much tirthas as the temples opened up by Srila Prabhupada during his presence, because Prabhupada's Vani, as we hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. So Prabhupada is still present with us. And we take the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's writings and Prabhupada's instructions and Prabhupada's service and Prabhupada's society. We're all connected to Srila Prabhupada. And it's not that you or someone who was initiated second generation is any less connected than me. It's not that because I was physically present, I got a lot of opportunities to be with Srila Prabhupada, that I'm any more fortunate than any of you. You're all, someone's good fortune is dependent upon their connection to Prabhupada, and that connection is spiritual connection. Just want to make that clear. So, the second thing is, that is a topic I wanted to talk about before, like where should we put our attention in? To the devotees, you know, those who are just fixed in devotional service, or those. And it's interesting, I was just watching a biography, a very nice film series about Jesus Christ. It's called The Chosen. Has anyone seen that series? Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. I learned a lot of things about compassion by watching it. And, you know, there's the famous quote that Jesus Christ has, that talking about someone who is a sheep herder. And he said, who does the sheep herder, or what does the sheep herder, not who, or whatever, think of? Does he think of, let's say he has 1,000 sheep, but one has wandered off. So which one is he actually thinking of? You know, he's thinking of the one who's wandering off. So, you know, of course there's a balance too. I mean, you can't just spend your whole life just like looking for people who've lost. But I know in the case of my dear godbrother, Jayapataka Maharaj, when he would visit a place, he would, if he heard of a devotee who had left the movement, he would take an extra endeavor. Does anyone know stories about that? I do. I mean, I've been with him. He would just go out in his car, sometimes at night, to try to find that person, to bring the person back. So, I mean, there's, you know, so I saw that great compassion with him when he was in better health, of course, because I spent a lot of time with him, and he would take the time. And I mean, I know even this, in the position of the spiritual leadership, this is what absorbs many of our leaders. In fact, even this morning, I would, just to be, you know, revealing mine, I was chanting my japa, and I was just feeling pain because one devotee had, you know, one of my disciples left the society. And I just think, Krishna, bring this person back, please. You know, so, anyway. So there has, anyway, whatever. I don't want to get into it too much. So, any other questions?
Well, that's interesting, because you, as a spiritual master, you're the spiritual father, and I know you grieve, and I know it hurts your heart, and it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Because I know you know that disciple.
Yeah.
And you have a relationship with him or her, and when they take off like that, it must hurt you terribly.
Yeah, but, and also with the case of my godbrothers too, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, I mean, just frankly, when you came back to the movement, you know,
Yeah.
Spent quite a bit of time with you. You know, I was just happy. Oh, welcome back, bro. So, it was, I mean, I didn't know you before then,
John,
you know, but, you know, it was nice.
it's very nice. I won't forget. I'll never forget that.
And, you know, just like, and I was thinking, how can we engage this Bushaya, you know, more and more in the service? And so we engaged, if you remember properly, we had you teach all the devotees CPR at the temple.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is part of my, I mean, it wasn't a trick, but a part of my planning how to
Jai.
engage you more in Krishna consciousness.
Nice.
And so he was teaching all the devotees CPR, and he brought some dummy with him. Not a stupid person, but
There was another lady who taught too.
yeah, she brought a dummy with.
Yeah, mannequin. Mom. Mannequin.
Yeah, not a stupid person. Sorry, she brought. There was a name to the mannequin too. I remember it.
Annie.
Annie, that's right.
Bhakti Annie.
Bhaktin Annie. And even the brahmacharis had to give her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
I do want to say one thing. All glories to Kavaya Sundari Dasi, who dressed the beautiful Lordship Scorning Ki.
Jai.
Also to a devotee by the name of Shamaloka Devi Dasi. I really don't know her very well.
That's good.
She had the pleasure of the service addressing Radharada Kanta Ki.
Jai. Yeah, she did dress very well. Well, great. So we've gone on longer than I had. Oh, okay.
Well, I was just gonna ask for some balance here, like I really appreciated Shamaluta's point.
Yeah.
And, because, yeah, we should put our energy into rescuing people, especially those who have wandered off.
Yeah.
But then we also hear Prabhupada uses the analogy, which is Godbrother Sridhar Maharaj also used, that when the medics go onto a battlefield to
Yeah.
pick up the wounded soldiers, at first when we ask that question, which one would you pick up first? Some people answer, oh, the one that's like really bleeding to death and like super
Right.
And the right answer is no. Those who are most likely to survive, you take back to the hospital, and those who are least likely to survive, you don't invest your energy. So it seems like the preacher really has to be mature,
Yeah.
not be sentimental, and have discretion.
Yeah, that's it.
A
That's
Kanishka
true.
Bhakta will be like, let's just save the person who's unsavable, and forget about the ones that are savable.
That's true. I mean, it also depends whether one is Kanishta, Majjhima, or Uttama. So it's actually much more specific like that. Like, you find Prabhupada sometimes trying to find someone who's completely unfavorable. And I think her question was also based upon sometimes people may be a disturbance to the society. What do we do with those people? And I don't want to deal with that question right now. So, enough controversy this morning. We have another question?
I was just going to make a statement about the whole thing, that when I was reading this one pastime of Srila Prabhupada where one of his disciples wrote him a letter, and he said to him that before he became a devotee, he was addicted to smoking marijuana and taking intoxication. And then he gave it up, and then now he's once again finding his attachment to be back into this intoxication.
Right.
And so the devotee that was reading the letter was thinking, like Srila Prabhupada was really going to blast that person.
Mm-hmm.
And instead Srila Prabhupada just looked at him and said, just see how he's struggling for Krishna. So we can't always just take things, at face value, and just think, oh, this person's a nonsense, they just need to go out and get kicked a little bit, We can also just think, that, maybe this person has, some desire, but because of some fall down, they're feeling guilty and feeling unqualified to be here. But like you're saying, that person may be able to be salvaged to do some compassion.
Yeah, because the good quality of that person is remorseful.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't resent the fact, that he's doing something wrong, and he's just presenting his weakness before Prabhupada. So, yeah, it's a fine line and requires discrimination to deal with certain cases. Okay.